To have seen Samoa Joe in his days as a breakout performer is to have witnessed an anomaly. Wrestlers of his considerable girth and size were supposed to be one-note brawlers, while competitors possessing his wrestling acumen were supposed to be smaller-bodied. Yet here was the Samoan submission machine, wrestling capably with the greatest junior heavyweights on the planet, playing the Vader to their collective Sting. It didn't take long for that anomaly, that rare juxtaposition of features, to become one of pro wrestling's most intriguing performers. Whether he was reigning for 21 months as Ring of Honor World Champion or surviving a year and a half in TNA without a single smudge in the loss column, Samoa Joe captured the imaginations of wrestling fans who enjoyed the fusion of textbook wrestling with violent MMA influence. Matches that were more hardcore than the barbed wire orgies you see in certain independents. Today, at age 40, Joe just keeps on trucking, occupying space in WWE's upper tier, still every bit the fearsome beast that we've known for years. And in the event that Joe one day decides to kill us as that informative crowd chant goes, let's get in this little bit of knowledge about the man, because Samoa Joe knows where every single one of us lives. I'm Sam from Cultaholic.com, and here are 10 things you didn't know about Samoa Joe. Join us! Number 10. Sweet moves. When Samoa Joe began a heated rivalry with Kurt Angle in the fall of 2006, many were quick to note the similarities between the two: the cultured technical skills, the punishing submissions, the dominant championship runs. But what went unmentioned is the fact that both of them have experience in the Summer Olympics. Angle's obviously came in 1996 when he took the gold in freestyle wrestling, with a broken freaking neck of course. But what about Joe? Well, you'll be surprised to know that his Olympic experience predates Angle's by a full 12 years. At the Los Angeles Games in 1984, when Joe was just 5 years old, he had a hand in the events, but not as a competitor. His family founded a Polynesian dance troupe called Tiari Productions, and little Joe took part in the opening ceremonies as part of a dance routine alongside his family. 24 years later, when Joe defeated Angle for the TNA World Heavyweight title at Lockdown 2008, members of his family actually preceded his entrance by doing a traditional fire dance in what was a really cool moment. Number 9. Paying the bills. The life of a professional wrestler prior to entering the business can be fascinating, as we get to see the humanity of these larger-than-life stars. Wrestlers tended to have real jobs, either while grappling on the weekends or even before they even considered stepping foot inside the ring. The latter was very much the case for Samoa Joe, who hadn't considered giving pro wrestling a try until it was suggested by his judo instructor. But judo wasn't his vocation; something much, much less physical was. In his early 20s, Joe worked in Southern California as a mortgage broker, a go-between who seeks mortgage loans on behalf of individuals or businesses. It's rather hard to imagine a college-age Joe in a shirt and tie or even a sweater vest helping to secure loans, but we'd have to imagine he was quite persuasive given his naturally menacing tone. As a mortgage broker, Joe took up judo to satisfy his need to do something physical after sitting around in an office environment all day, and when his instructor broached the idea of wrestling, well, it was an ideal connection. Number 8. Words with friends. Their ring styles are quite different from one another, but Samoa Joe and John Cena did in fact train together in California in the late 90s at Rick Bassman's Ultimate Pro Wrestling School. Joe even had a small hand in training Cena, as he helped teach the beginners classes, which Cena would attend despite him already being past the basics, before both would attend the advanced classes at night as students. The two became friends in their time at UPW, and not only did Joe play part in Cena's improvement as a wrestler, but he unknowingly helped him develop as a character too. During long road trips to hit up independent shows, Cena used to freestyle rap in order to stave off boredom as well as keep both men awake. Joe would actually join in battle rapping with Cena on those long car rides, with neither man probably realizing that Cena's big WWE break was gonna come in the guise of a Marky Mark meets Eminem style character. So when you think about it, had Joe and Cena crashed the Usos vs New Day rap battle, it might have been a veritable squash on behalf of the grizzled vets. Number 7. Sorry kid. Take one look at Samoa Joe in the ring and it's hard to argue that he doesn't fit in as a wrestler. Equal parts monster heel and evolutionary technician, Joe brings much to the table anywhere he goes, something that Ring of Honor and TNA both realized more than a decade ago. But according to Joe, WWE didn't exactly see the same value in him, and he was even told this face to face. Joe was plugging away in UPW back when WWE used the promotion as something of a scouting combine, and Cena was recruited out of the company around the turn of the century. At the time Cena was being hand-selected, Joe recalls talking to Bruce Pritchard and Jim Ross, neither of whom had words of encouragement. According to Joe, Pritchard told him, "You aren't cut out for this business." And JR, probably speaking more from his office mindset than his actual feelings, told Joe, "Guys like Nathan Jones and John Heidenreich are what we're here for. You're a great worker, and I'm sure you understand that." While adding, "This business is probably not going to work out for you." Of course, Joe went on to become a respected top guy, while Jones and Heidenreich, has anybody seen those guys? Number 6, worth the money. Surely you're aware of the swathe of destruction that Joe left across Ring of Honor during his early time with the company, holding the promotion's world title from March 2003 until the very end of 2004, making 29 defenses of the gold along the way. Joe played such an immense part in legitimizing a young Ring of Honor that it's easy to imagine him being an instant fit with the company. But it turns out that's not exactly the case. According to Joe, when he debuted for the company at Glory by Honor in October 2002, he was told by current Evolve co-owner Gabe Sapolsky that this was not going to be a regular gig due to the high costs of flying Joe in from California, and that the heavyweight wrestler should view this as essentially a one-off. After Joe tore the house down with Low Ki that night, he claims that Sapolsky did a complete 180 and booked him as one of the regulars going forward. Wise decision, Gabriel. Number 5, a hardcore fan. One of Joe's magnum opuses Between the Ropes occurred on October 16th, 2004, when he and CM Punk fought to a 1-hour draw in Chicago over Joe's Ring of Honor World Heavyweight title. Dave Meltzer rated the match 5 stars, and most who've seen it came to a similar conclusion. One wrestler who was especially enamored with the work of both men was Mick Foley, who made appearances for Ring of Honor at the time. His appreciation for each man's talents led to him strongly advocating for both. Joe and Punk have both told the story that Foley went to top WWE officials and strongly pitched an angle where he would bring in both men to the company as the most promising talents outside the WWE bubble. They would be presented as contrast to the desired muscle-bound look that WWE coveted in its wrestlers, a role that Foley related to in his run to the top of the business. While Punk would soon be signed to developmental, Vince McMahon reportedly passed on Joe even after both Foley and John Laurinaitis made strong cases for him. And shortly thereafter, it was off to TNA for Joe. Number 4, authoritative voice. While Joe is a unique presence in whatever wrestling promotion he happens to occupy, he does share one particular bond with many of his peers, a love of video games. He hosts his own Twitch stream and lists Elder Scrolls V Skyrim and Final Fantasy VI among his all-time favorite games. Joe has also, of course, been in his share of wrestling video games over the years, but has also made an appearance in a non-wrestling title. In 2014, Joe voiced a character in Telltale's Game of Thrones. His character, the Beast, appears in the 5th episode, entitled A Nest of Vipers, which sadly doesn't include any cameos from a certain cutthroat residing in the House of Orton. As the Beast, who looks suspiciously like a wider-bodied Lars Sullivan, Joe speaks with a slightly more elegant tone. He also drops an angry F-bomb, naughty naughty, and enjoys being headbutted in the snout. With that kind of unwavering enthusiasm, maybe Joe should be the one providing the in-game commentary for WWE's 2K series.
And there's a game-changing DDT.
Number 3, take a look, it's in a book. Samoa Joe has the ability to make bedtime stories into fear-inducing endeavors based on his reading of Night Night AJ back in 2018. Joe may not be a children's book author by actual trade, but he is an avid reader, as he admitted in an interview on the eve of the 2017 SummerSlam. In his words, he's apt to crack open a book to pass the time on long airplane and bus rides in the midst of his travels. Joe also says that the book he most often refers to is the Hagakure, a warrior's guide filled with spiritual and practical wisdom compiled from the words of Yamamoto Tsunetomo, a 17th and 18th century samurai, though it was not published until many years after his death in 1719. It's referred to as the definitive guide of the samurai, and Joe often refers back to it with some frequency, saying that even now he still picks up bits of wisdom and knowledge from it. Number 2, Joe of all trades. Earlier, we noted Samoa Joe was steered toward professional wrestling at the recommendation of his judo instructor, and it should probably come as no surprise that Joe is a disciple of the martial arts. To see Joe wrestle is to see an obvious MMA influence in his strikes, takedowns, and submissions. But judo isn't the only discipline that Joe practices. Joe also trains in both Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as well as Muay Thai, giving him a more well-rounded martial arts background. In his youth, he won the California State Junior Judo Championship, and as an adult has been a sparring partner of former UFC heavyweight Justin McCulley at the Punishment Training Center in Huntington Beach, California. The gym was founded by UFC legend Tito Ortiz, whom Joe is friends with. Joe's lengthy association with mixed martial arts may not have led him into the octagon, but the way he's fused his background into professional wrestling has only enhanced the product we enjoy. And number 1, the champ is here. Joe noted at different times how WWE, Impact Wrestling, and Ring of Honor all seemed disinterested in him as a commodity, or in Ring of Honor's case, a regular commodity. Eventually, he not only won all three organizations over with his inspired ring work and presence, but did more than enough to earn top consideration in each company. And through his persistence and longevity, Joe has managed a unique feat. Samoa Joe is the only man in history to have held the Impact Wrestling, Ring of Honor, and NXT World Championships. Other individuals can claim to have held two of the three, including Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, Bobby Roode, Drew McIntyre, Eddie Edwards, and Austin Aries. But Joe, across more than 13 years as essentially the same brooding, no-nonsense force of nature, captured all three championships. A testament to not only his longevity, but also his endurance as one of the most endlessly compelling professional wrestlers of the modern era.
Thanks for watching. Let us know what you think in the comments below. You can follow Cultaholic on Twitter at Cultaholic. You can check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/Cultaholic. If you like what we do here at Cultaholic, you can check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/Cultaholic. And no matter what you do, don't ever forget to hit subscribe and join us.